Hi everyone and welcome to the fourth webinar in our School Data 2026 planning series. So far we have worked through staff intentions forms, gathering preferences and future intentions data, subject change forms now with Guardian approvals, and subject selection forms, managing student preferences and the many and varied rule types that govern who can select what. Today we bring it all together as we look at how to build, manage and staff your planner grid. Most importantly, we want to help place critical data at your fingertips when you need it most. Before we dive into building the planner grid, many of you will be sending out staff intentions forms about now. So let's take a quick look at the form reports page inside the staff intentions forms wizard. My banner is red because my demo data lives in a previous year, so don't worry that yours isn't red. Just like Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, you can view your form reports table like this, or you can press the three dots up here and export this page to CSV. Alternatively, you can click this clipboard button here to bring up an individual teacher's preference form. You might recall that we discussed in a previous webinar how to add abbreviations to questions in forms, and you can see the value of that here. You can also see the cost of not adding an abbreviation to a form here. We're left with the entire formatted question here rather than an easily readable abbreviation. Now, if you've asked a question like, are you intending on taking long service leave? It might be a good idea to filter on that response for ticks to make sure you know who intends to be away for extended periods next year. But the real power is where this data goes without you having to read and memorize all the forms. Okay, so we are about to move to our future grid. To begin, we need to define the structure of the grid itself. That is, we need to set course durations and dates. This step ensures your grid reflects the real teaching blocks at your school, so year-long, semester or term classes appear at the correct width and time frame. Go to Setup Tasks and click on Course Durations. In here, you can add all the units of time for which your courses run, whether they're year-long, semester length, or term-based. The structure is ultimately flexible, so you could have fortnightly rotations or trimesters or whatever you like. Once you've defined this structure, you can add these durations directly to subjects in your master subjects table. Once you're happy with these, go back to Setup Tasks and click Course Dates. Here is where you decide how many of each duration you have and the dates within which they run. It's, once again, ultimately flexible. You could enter a 5th term if you wanted to. We'll only add this to our planner grid. Let's say it starts for some bizarre reason on the 21st of December after the 4th term ends, and it ends on the 31st of December. Press Save and Exit, and there is term 5. This allows the grid that we're about to see to accurately represent your classes and their durations. Before we build our grid, I'm going to delete term 5 for obvious reasons. Now we're going to build your grid using the Planner Wizard. This is the fastest way to generate all your classes at once. The Planner Wizard lives inside the class planning tile. You'll find it here, second in the list. You can see that this is a very simple, very small 3-step wizard. In step 1, you will see every subject from your master subjects table. You simply need to untick subjects that aren't offered next year. Then when we go to step 2, assign classes, you'll only see a filtered list of those ticked classes from step 1. I like to use subject groups to help filter and sort my data, and you'll see the real benefit of this in just a second. If you haven't used subject groups before, you can easily add them to your master subjects table using export and merge. Now I've temporarily jumped into another profile here, just so that I can show you what kind of data you could expect to see here once you have imported your timetables, and don't forget, we're going to cover importing timetables into your current grid next week. Not only will this give you some historical data, but it will also give you student enrolment data, which you can use to help validate rules that you've added to your subject selection portal. Okay, let's scroll across to the right. Remember those course dates that we established in the setup screen? Well, if you have set up a subject as duration equals full year, you'll see one box in the full year column. If you've set up 2 semester durations and you have tagged a subject as semester in length, then you will see a semester 1 box and a semester 2 box. If we keep scrolling down, we'll see some term-based boxes over to the right. Okay, remember how I said the subject groups could help when filtering data? Well, let's type core year 8 into the filter. And if we scroll to the left, what we're going to see is that I've filtered on subject group equals core year 8 classes. Now let's head back to the right. This is a subject group that this school has set up to allow them to smash out their year 8 grid in a minute or two. It's likely that you probably know how many full year and semester-based classes you're going to have for each of your year 8 subjects next year. Let's jump back into a school with minimal data to see how this might look for you, especially if you're in your first year with us. Okay, so here at School Data College, we haven't synced our timetable files yet, so we don't have any data in here. We're going to do that next week. But over on the right, we still think we have a fair idea of how many year 8 classes are going to run next year, so we're going to very quickly get our data into the assigned classes screen, and we'll see that that automatically populates the third step, our planner grid. Okay, so you've probably guessed this, but all you need to do is type a number into the boxes over here at the right. This school is going to run 3 art classes at year 8 in semester 1 and 3 art classes in semester 2. Let's take a peek at the next screen to see what happens. Okay, so we can see that 3 semester 1 art classes at year 8 have been spun up, and the same again in semester 2. Over on the right, we've got the start date and end date for these courses as defined in our setup menu. And the width of these boxes is mathematically calculated based on the number of days between the start date and the end date. So you get a sense of just how quick it should be to create most, if not all, of your planner grid. With your grid built, it's time to allocate staff to classes. Now at School Data College, they haven't filled out their 2026 staff intentions form yet. So I'm going to go to the home screen and I'm going to go back to last year. I'll enter the class planning tile and the class planner wizard, and I'll go straight to step 3, the planner grid. Now in here, you get a bit of a sense of what a completed grid will look like. I'm going to hide the graph because I don't find it overly useful in this screen. Now, for the purposes of today's demonstration, a completed grid is no good to us. So I'm going to filter on Year 8 Art simply by typing the subject code in here, and conveniently, Year 8 Art is currently unstaffed. All I need to do to add a teacher to these classes is either click on the Add Teacher button over here, or I can simply click anywhere in the grey bar. Clicking in the grey bar reveals a pop-up that houses a lot of important data for us. If anyone had selected Year 8 Art as their first preference on their staff intentions form, that would appear in this column here. You can see that 2 staff members have selected it as any preference. Eric has selected it as his third preference and Ryan as his fourth. You can also see in this previously taught column who has taught the subject previously in the school data database. You might recall from a few weeks back that there is also a previously taught question type. That is, you can ask your staff whether they have taught this subject somewhere else in the past, for example. Maybe they taught it in New Zealand 10 years ago. That won't appear in the school data database, but at least you'll have a record that they've taught it. Similarly, you can add a question type to forms that asks whether you are qualified to teach this subject. Okay, now there are 2 ways to assign teachers to classes. Let's start with the mouse method. All you need to do is click on the teacher, anywhere you see their name, click in the teacher name box down here and press save. And you can see that Eric is automatically added to this class. The second method is the keyboard method, and it suits me perfectly because I am very impatient. Once again, click on the class and you'll notice over here that the cursor is flashing in the search for teachers box. That means if I move to the keypad, I can simply start typing the name of the teacher that I want to allocate to this class. So let's say I scan the lists and I can see Michael Smith's name in the previously taught column. So I simply start typing Michael, and I deliberately chose a name that was going to yield a lot of responses just to show you that once I spot Michael here and I can see him third in the list, I can just tab 3 times down to his name, and you'll notice that his name also goes green over on the left. And then I can simply press the number 1. And what you'll notice is Michael's name appears down here in slot 1. Then I can simply press enter and Michael has been added to this class. Now, what's this slot 1 business? If we are assigning one teacher to each class, why do we need to call it slot 1? Let's go through a few practical scenarios. Let's say you have a product design class that requires 2 teachers in the same class at all times. We can see that Reggie has already been assigned to this class, but we want to also assign Anthony to this class. We simply press add. That creates a second slot with the same start and end dates. We can click on Anthony's name, press the number 2 to indicate that we want Anthony to go into slot 2, and we can press save. Now what you'll notice up here is that Anthony has been added to this class as well. Both teachers are in there for the full 9 periods, and the bar has gone orange to indicate we have more than one teacher with overlapping dates. Let's click back into this class and explore 1 or 2 other common scenarios. Let's say you have a job share arrangement between Reggie and Anthony. Let's say Reggie is taking 5 periods of this class per cycle and Anthony is taking 4. It's just a matter of changing the number of periods, pressing save, and everything is updated. As we'll show you shortly, the loads pages are also updated with this information, as are your FTE reports. But what if it's not job share? What if Reggie is taking all 9 periods of this class, but he's going on long service leave, and maybe he is leaving on, let's say, the 9th of July, after which time Anthony is taking over the class from the 10th of July for all 9 periods. Press save, and you'll notice that the bar is green again because there are no overlapping dates. Just for interest's sake, if we'd left a gap and said that Anthony wasn't starting until the 16th of July, you would notice that in here. On the other hand, if you had left a little bit of overlap, say Anthony was starting on the 6th of July to allow for a handover perhaps, and we press save, you will see the crossover period in here, that kind of darker orange. All right, let's have a look at what happens in the load screen when you allocate staff. This is a huge time saver. Let's go back to Year 8 Art. As we know, we have a couple of unstaffed classes in here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a second browser window. And in this second window, which ideally for you will be a second screen, I'm going to go to Grids and Loads and I'm going to click Planner Loads. Now in here, you can see each teacher's individual load, all of their classes, their start and end dates, a graph of the school's full-time FTE. I'll show you one other cool trick if we go to Manage Staff Table. And we find this teacher and add in a target FTE. Let's say 0.85 and we press save. And we head back to the planner load screen. You'll notice there is now a black line which shows you this teacher's target. The green line down here shows you a graph of this teacher's changing load over the course of the year. There are more stats in this box over on the right hand side. But if we go back to the planner grid, let's have a look what happens when we actually assign a teacher. Now we'll have to be quick here to catch this. I'm going to click on Year 8 Art here. I'm going to allocate Ryan the class by clicking there, pressing the number 1 and pressing enter, and very quickly I'll change over to the other screen. And what you probably noticed here is that the screen automatically scrolled to Ryan's load. It added the class into Ryan's load, this Year 8 Art class up here, and it built Ryan's graph here. Once again, adding that Year 8 Art class into his load graph and into his load stats. Now, by the way, one of the greatest features of this module, I was about to say coolest features, I'm not sure if you'll join me in sharing that sentiment, is that because we have single sign-on, when you are ready to release provisional loads to teachers, and I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but teachers can simply access the school data site, type in their school email address, Microsoft will authenticate them, and they can see their load on their dashboard as long as you have pressed the publish button. It is that simple. No more mail merging, no more sending letters around to staff with their load. But don't get me wrong, you can if you want to. In fact, we built an app a few months ago for a school that requested an app that would allow us to export these loads, import them into an app, and automatically generate load letters for staff, complete with introductory paragraphs, outro paragraphs, letterheads, signatures, loads, and more. So we're definitely not here to tell you that what you've been doing in the past is wrong. We're here to give you options if you're interested in a faster way. Now, most of you have told us that you are going to want to give learning leaders access to provide their dream team staffing. So how do we do this? Well, the great news is that everything you see here was designed with this task in mind. See this permissions button up here? You will see this button at the top of most pages. If you see it, you can assign granular permissions in that page. Let's work through one real life example. There are 2 columns with tick boxes here, as you can see. The first column dictates who has access to see or edit the page. And if we choose a staff member, say we choose Liam Anderson, you can see here that we can toggle through read-only access, edit access, hidden, and back to no access. If you want your teachers to be able to provide their dream team staffing, you'll need to set access to editing rights. Now, at the moment, this is full access, but let's say Liam is the head of humanities. Over here in the filter permissions box, we can decide what Liam can see and edit in the page. We click this button, and the permission type is basically asking us which column are we going to find the filter value. And in our case, this is faculty, and the permission value is HUM. That is the faculty code. We tick permission edit, and then we press add filter. Let's say Liam were also the year 10 coordinator. We can set year level to 10 and add that filter as well. Let's go and have a look what happens. I'm going to press apply filter. By the way, let's say you want to set start dates and end dates so you don't have to remember to switch off access for learning leaders when you're ready to go in and tweak loads at the executive level. Let's say we've also made Tyler and Greg learning leaders here. You can simply type edit access, which is the permissions description, into this search bar here, and you'll notice that it filters the list to only show these 3 teachers. Now, if you click bulk edits, you can set a start date. For the sake of the demonstration, I'm just going to say 1st of Jan 2024 all the way through to the 31st of December 2025. I'm going to enable the change and I'm going to press bulk edit. We get a warning. If we press OK, our list has been modified. And you can see that these dates have been applied here. If I clear the filter, you can see that it's only been applied to these 3 teachers. Your end date will probably be something like the 15th of August or something like that, or maybe earlier. Once that date has passed, learning leaders will no longer be able to get in and provide their dream team staffing. You may want to come back later and grant them read-only access when the time comes to release loads. At that point, you'll want to either clear these dates or set new start and end dates. Okay, while we're here, I'm going to show you what Liam can see when he logs into the site. To do this, I'm going to press back and I'm going to go to Manage Master Staff Table. I'm going to find Liam's record, and over on the right hand side, I'm going to press Edit and Test User and OK. Now I am logged in as Liam. Now when Liam logs in, you'll see he has this planner drop down here with the option to select Planner Grid classes. I'll just hide this graph here. And what you can see in here is that Liam can see and edit anything tagged with year level 10, or if we scroll down here, below the year 10 classes, faculty equals hum for humanities. Yes, Liam can click on these classes and staff them. Now, in our experience, schools are divided pretty much 50-50 on whether they want learning leaders to have permission to see the planner loads page 2. Remember this page we looked at earlier? That is, half our schools say, yep, if we have a teacher on 75 periods, we want the English and Humanities coordinators to meet to discuss where they can reach a compromise. In other words, they want their learning leaders to see load so they can do some load balancing. Others say, no, just give us your dream teams and we will do the balancing. The good news is that there is a permissions button in the loads page too. Either way, once you switch off learning leader access, you are going to want to archive the learning leader staffing so you can make some executive tweaks, shall we say. Archiving the grid gives you a snapshot of what leaders submitted before the executive decisions and tweaks were made. Oh, and by the way, if you ever want to see a log of changes, that exists here in the admin menu. Simply go to Audit Log Admin and you'll see what changed, who changed it, and when. Okay, so let's archive the grid that we've created. Simply hover over the Planner tile up here and select Grid Development Management. Click New Entry, give this a name like Learning Leader Draft August 2025 and a description, which for the sake of time, I'm simply going to copy and paste. You can give it an order in the list and press Save. Now, the two most interesting tiles or icons in here are this grid icon here and the loads icon over here. If you click them now though, you will find they are blank because all we did was create a new entry and name it. If we go back to the list, you'll notice that loads are also empty. So we need to bring the grid in its current state here into the archive. Click once again on the grids icon, press Import Planner Grid, and this is going to import your planner grid in its current state into this archived record. If I press Import Planner Grid here and OK, it takes about a second, processing is complete, and we can press Done. And here is our planner grid. Okay, so let's wrap this up with a quick look at the reports that are automatically generated when you create and staff your planner grid. I'm simply going to press the reports icon over here on the left. And because this is a planner grid, I'm going to click Planner Reports. There are plenty of reports to explore over here, but my two favorites are Subject Allocations All and Staff Allocations All. Let's have a quick look at Subject Allocations All. This gives you a list of every subject in your planner grid, along with some data about that subject. Not least in terms of importance, this empty slots column tells you whether you are yet to staff any of the classes that you have added to your planner. And the teachers column, of course, lists all the teachers who are taking this class. Now, if we scroll down and find some semester-based subjects, or up as the case may be, it's important to know which of these teachers over here are taking these classes in semester 1 or 2 or both, or terms if that's how they're broken down. So you can select a date range, let's say for example semester 1, The list will filter to only show teachers who are taking these classes in semester 1. In fact, it'll only show the classes that are running in semester 1. Likewise, if we press semester 2, our list only shows the classes running in semester 2. If we go back to planner reports, you'll recall that I said I also like staff allocations all. This is very similar, but it lists all the staff in your school and their allocations across the year. Over on the right hand side, you can see all of their classes across the year. But again, the filters really take this to the next level. You'll notice initially that the minimum FTE for each staff member is 0. And the reason for that is because the default date range is the 1st of January to the 31st of December. If you click full year, you'll notice the minimum changes. That is basically, say, the 29th of Jan to the 20th of December, or whatever dates you've set up as your full year dates in the course dates menu. Now, it's pretty important in most schools to get part-time FTEs correct over the course of the year. And so you can filter by term 1, for example, and you'll notice FTEs change, as do the classes that teachers are taking. It won't surprise you to hear that just like pretty much every page in the site, you can export this table to CSV. And that pretty much covers it. Today we've covered reviewing your form data, setting up durations and dates, building your planner grid rapidly and efficiently, allocating staff, managing permissions for Learning Leader, Dream Team staffing, archiving grids, and automated reporting. We genuinely hope that this helps to streamline your processes at your school. I genuinely hope you've got something out of this and you've enjoyed it to some degree. As always, I will hang around. Give me 30 seconds to a minute to absorb the questions that hopefully have been coming in on the Q&A. Otherwise, as always, if you have any questions that you don't want to post on the Q&A, please feel free to reach me via email. I very much look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Thank you.